Well, this sure is a big reality check for a lot of the real criminals out there in our society. As some people are warning, specifically on the left, that we might be very close to what people are calling a, quote, civil war-like scenario. And in this particular video, I wanted to examine that larger claim, as there are some unhinged leftist white women lunatics out there saying some really peculiar things, as Vanity Fair is now writing that people are scared ishless within the administration, within Congress, about the potential safety and security for everyone, including the President of the United States. As Ray Dalio just had a very interesting, fascinating conversation with Tucker Carlson about how he believes we already are in a civil war. All of this as, let's just be real with ourselves, the propaganda, the fear-mongering by the corporate media, it's not at a record high. It used to be pretty high. It used to be like extremely obnoxious, extremely just insane to deal with, and just exhausting. It's not as big as it was before. It's still existent, as of course Politico has this article here titled, "Trump Allies Circulate Mass Deportation Plan Calling for Processing Camps and a Private Citizen Army." Those sound effects I added myself there. But you get the gist here of what they're trying to get done here, as the byline reads: the group led by Blackwater veteran Eric Prince has close Trump ties. Is it an actual plan? No. Is it something that Trump is carrying out and going to be implemented? No. It's something that allegedly was proposed to him based on some sources. And again, I highly doubt that will happen, as we had a lot of, quote, political experts and commentators literally telling everyone that Trump was going to lock people up. He was going to arrest people for just being black. Obviously, that's not happening. Obviously, that is delusional, as Mr. Carville, who, of course, told us that Kamala Harris was going to win overwhelmingly, just came out with more predictions yesterday that we covered on this particular YouTube channel that, again, were just absolutely, totally deranged and out of it. As we have to understand, there are still elements within the corporate media that are trying to stoke division, that are trying to push hatred, fear, and pandemonium on the general public in a way to have them freak out. As a lot of people are learning, hey, you kind of got to sensationalize things for people to pay attention. As the beanie man himself, Tim Pool, a man who has always talked about the larger kind of possibility of civil war in the United States, just came out with a very interesting post highlighting some Reddit threads with a lot of leftists, a lot of liberals, literally talking about civil war. As he said, guys, liberals think a civil war is coming. LOL. Can you believe it? And when you look at some of these posts, a lot of them are very kind of out of touch with reality. A lot of them are just very violent. There's a lot of emotions behind them, but not a lot of logical thinking. It's sort of like the perfect kind of consumer for the corporate media that doesn't want you to think, doesn't want you to do your own homework, just wants you to believe everything that they say. And when you go on Reddit, it's just propaganda piece after propaganda piece. I mean, some of this stuff is just ridiculous, as there are highly edited videos like this that are still circulating on the top of Reddit, even though they have been debunked, as the longer original video shows specifically that a lot of people on Reddit were spreading lies about about Elon Musk, who the leftoids are calling the President of the United States. You watch the full video that finally is corrected, and it doesn't show that at all. But anything they can use against Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they will. You go on Reddit, and again, first page, everything always front page. Oh, Trump. Oh, he's sick. Look at that. Oh, Ukraine just defied Trump. Oh, look at that. Oh, Trump bad. Oh, Orange Man horrible. And then you wonder why people who are just completely inundated with that, with no sense of reality, with no alternative viewpoints, with no ability to ever try to be like, what's the other side saying? Hey, is there another perspective or understanding here? Is there something else maybe that I should try to understand from a different point of view, other than the deranged leftoid lunatic corporate media that is working with, of course, the intel agent. Is there anything else that maybe I should try to, kind of enrich my perspective by trying to see both sides? Nope, not at all. We have crazy white women like this that are launching videos like this that sadly are resonating with some people that have lost all hope in the political system, as there's also some very crazy news happening with the cartels on the southern border, Luigi Mangione. Let's just play a little bit. I don't want to play the full clip. Let's play a little of this crazy white woman here.
I promised myself I would avoid the news. But obviously I haven't. Here's my one thought. I have many thoughts.
Yeah, I promised I was going to not watch the corporate news. You watch the corporate news, and what happened there, Karen? Then you start going crazy, and you start talking about how you don't file taxes and how people need to assassinate Elon Musk. Again, absolute deranged, crazy people that clearly are not nutritionally sound, and that's why we started WeAreChange.shop, which has all of the amazing products that you could get from our store that I tested personally myself, that are absolutely wonderful, that are absolutely great, that you could get exclusively on WeAreChange.shop. Apologies for my face and mouth looking all weird. You probably are like, what the, is he having a stroke? No, I just literally came from the dentist, and we have a schedule that we got to keep. I got to keep that schedule. So I still have, half of my mouth literally. No, so I look a little ree, but whatever. I'm going to take, you know what I'm going to do? Since it's also largely an anti-inflammatory, I'm going to go here. We are changing our shot. I'm going to click here on Klaus Schwab's face as he's sucking down some Calm. Take Calm.com. CBD, really great stuff. 1,000 milligrams, full spectrum. I tested out all of these kind of products for 2 years on the market. I found the best one. This is the best one. I love this one, and truly, it's a product that I use. I'm going to use right after this one to help with the swelling, and my mouth is being absolutely numbed incredibly. So great anti-inflammatory, calms you down, relaxes you. When I had my bouts with anxiety and panic attacks, this stuff was the stuff that would help me out automatically. And again, it might help you, might not help you, but truly, if you're looking for a good product, a lot of these products, especially the more high quality, the better produced ones that actually are effective, not the weird, wacky gas station ones that you don't know if they're going to like mess with your brain or not. This doesn't mess with your brain. It doesn't mess with my brain. A lot of the high quality stuff is like 120 bucks, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to. We made sure to make it at an affordable cost with the quality that we have here. TakeCalm.com. Get it right now and support this independent media network and support all the work that we, of course, are doing here, trying to dispel the Karens and all the crazy white women in our society that clearly are becoming more and more crazy cat ladies with toxoplasmosis rotting their brains away, which causes impulsive behavior, which could bring us on the precipice of potential civil strife. As Ray Dalio has some very interesting comments about this, but clearly I would say Trump, Elon Musk, their lives are in danger, not just because of a lot of people that are giving up on the political system, not just because of people calling for violence, not just because of their kind of cavalier nature that has triggered and pissed off a lot of leftists, not just because of the corporate media gaslighting them and emotionally manipulating them, but also because of the CIA. The CIA isn't really happy with Musk, with Trump, and I'm very certain that it was also these kind of larger intel agencies and the larger deep state bureaucracy that originally took shots at Donald Trump. And I would argue that those people are still loose, those people are still running around, and those people were still never held accountable for their larger actions trying to take the life of Donald J. Trump. And I think Donald Trump realizes that, and that's why he's acting as fast and as some people would say reckless. I would say more kind of again, cavalier, I think is the right word. I think he's learned his lesson from 2016. I always said, hey, this is a different Trump. He learned his lesson from 2016. Everyone's like, no, no way, no. I'm like, nah, man, trust me. No. Those people were wrong. We were right. Ray Dalio, talking to Tucker Carlson, had this to say about the polarization of our society, which he described worse since the 1900s.
So I've heard you say that the United States is in a civil war, and I think most Americans don't perceive that. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by a civil war, I should say a type of civil war, right? And what I mean is that there are irreconcilable differences that each side is willing to fight for in order to get the outcomes that they want. And that in that environment, the issues of how does the legal system work? Is that going to stand in the way of that fight? Or is there going to be a fight that will make the cause more important than anything? So that's the type of situation that we're in.
Yeah, a very convoluted, very complicated situation that we are all in right now. That, guess what, is only going to get more complicated, as now we have news about the U.S. government launching Reaper drones and surveillance drones over Mexican territory, checking out the cartels, getting information about them, as there are larger voices within this Trump White House that have literally talked about starting a full-on war with the cartels, with the drug organizations that have members all throughout the United States. Now, a lot of people are saying, yeah, these guys don't stand a chance. And I'm saying they're all over the United States. They're embedded in a lot of the major cities. It would be a huge undertaking to take on. And let's just say, hypothetically, worst case possible scenario, right? You have the leftoids that are activated and organized and used as a way to become more kind of aggressive, hyperbolic, sensationalistic, and emotionally unhinged than ever. You have them join with the mutual enemy of the Trump administration, these kind of larger migrant criminal cartels, and you could have a potential for, and again, this is just absolutely hypothetical, and the chances of this happening extremely low. But worst case scenario, I think it's always important to kind of what's the word here? War game these type of scenarios. Worst case scenario, right? If I'm the intel agencies and I'm like, oh man, how do we stop Trump? How do we piss him off? How do we stop this? How do we foment more kind of chaos and civil unrest in our society? Well, okay, ratchet up the propaganda, have everyone fear for their lives, especially if they're liberals, and then have them join with the migrants and criminal cartels to fight. And that would be the kind of groundwork. And let's just say there's a full-on war between cartels and the United States government. You're telling me liberals and leftists are not going to try to give safe haven or help out some of these guys? I mean, they're their number one customer. A lot of leftists and liberals, sadly, have a lot of substance abuse. Clearly, that's a larger kind of correlation. Not always, but that's usually the kind of rule here. And that would be the kind of sensationalistic, hyperbolic, worst case possible scenario that could lead us down to a war, as the left has already shown their larger kind of normalization of violence with the Luigi Mangione case, as there were a lot of young women, a lot of people protesting for him. Why? How in the world are there people supporting this Luigi Mangione guy that took the life of a CEO who was a father in cold blood? But this is this kind of radical. There's small elements of this. It's not major, but it has a possibility of growing. And my assessment with the Luigi case was specifically that this was a larger case that has been psyoped, has been made as big as it is, as this Luigi guy has been lionized. He's been made to look like Superman. The corporate media loves to talk about him, as I was like, hey, this could be the latest kind of groundwork for the next kind of big thing. And instead of it just being against liberals and blacks versus whites, instead of just this larger kind of cultural war, which clearly the right has won, now I think they're going to try to push a class war. You add that with the other elements of what's kind of developing here, and you have what could be some major big problems ahead of us that could signal to some potential clashes and fights that, of course, I think as a society we should be doing everything in our power to avoid. Now, what's the likelihood for all of this to actually happen and transpire? Extremely unlikely. But I think it's still worth discussing. I think it's still important to warn people. I think it's still important to try to de-radicalize people. I think it's still important to try to bring the temperature down in the room. The Trump administration is on a tear. They're not perfect. They're doing some things wrong. We call them out when they do something wrong, and we support them when they do something right. And I think that's a kind of balanced perspective that puts away a lot of this polarization that is plaguing this country and absolutely dividing us in very dangerous ways. I would say Trump's victory, especially with the Electoral College, with the popular vote, with the kind of anti-establishment movement with Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., highlighted and represents this new kind of America that I think is going to be predominantly peaceful. It's going to not have as much controversy. Will there be some leftists that or some CIA agents that will try to disrupt and cause violence? I think so. And we need to see those larger kind of attempts for what they are, larger attempts to try to disrupt the actual kind of progress and evolution that we're having right now that I think is signaling a larger renaissance that everyone on the left and right will benefit from. I think a lot of people on the left aren't as hijacked as a lot of the kind of social media echo chambers want us to believe. I think a lot of them secretly voted for Donald Trump. That's why he won the popular vote. I think a lot of leftists are just afraid to talk out against their kind of perceived norms, since they're more of a kind of groupthink ideology that doesn't want to stir the pot. They want to kind of go along. But I think when they're in that voting booth privately, they're like, Kamala, Trump. Oh, no, it's not that. No. Whoa. And then they quickly go and turn on their votes. I do think that's the larger kind of overall consensus here. And looking at all these larger trajectories and how we're moving forward, I think it's going to be smooth sailing ahead. Will there be a worst case scenario where all of these kind of violent forces converge and start some kind of large civil war? I would say the probability of that is 0.5%. That's my assessment, but I think it's still entertaining to talk about and discuss specifically the larger hypotheticals that could happen. If you agree, what's your percentage that you think it's possible? Thanks for dealing with my epilepsy dental face. Thank you for subscribing. I never take a day off. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/wearechange.